I'm here now with Eriel Tchekwie, who is the Executive Director of Indigenous Climate Action. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
At this meeting, talking a lot about climate change and health. Talk about it specifically as it relates to your community.
Well, right now in northern Alberta, it's home to the largest industrial project on planet Earth, which is the Alberta tar sands. And it's the second largest recoverable oil reserve on the planet, but it's actually also Canada's largest single emitter for greenhouse gas emissions. So in my community, we're dealing with the imposition of not just industrialization of our territory, but compounded by global climate change. We're already seeing decreasing waterways, changes in migratory patterns of species, and all of this is disrupting the lives and livelihood of the Indigenous communities in northern Alberta.
Can you talk specifically about how it's impacting the people?
So my community of Fort Chipewyan is a fly-in remote community, which means that many people subsidize the cost of living through subsistence or country food. So as this food is being contaminated and or disappearing because of climate change, this affects the health and livelihoods of many of the community members. As our diets change, we have limited access to healthy food sources or choices, limited by one grocery store where the prices are astronomical. And so now we're seeing increases of diabetes, autoimmune diseases, obesity, and cancers caused by contamination. So it's like a double whammy. Both climate change and the drivers of climate change are impacting the health and survival, cultural survival of the communities in northern Alberta.
I think when people hear about that, especially health professionals, they think, what can we do? If they asked you that question, how would you answer it?
I think that there needs to be a lot more scientific communities, scientists, health professionals working alongside Indigenous communities to find out what the root causes are of the concerns and how can we amend and find new ways to challenge these systems that have allowed these projects to be considered okay. And in addition to that, we need to work with Indigenous communities looking at their Indigenous knowledge systems, their traditional ways of being as valuable and as factors for moving the line in how we look at the studies, how we find the root causes, and how we move forward to building solutions.
When you talk about moving forward, we talk about climate solutions, and there are short-term and there are long-term solutions, clearly. What do you think needs to be done right now?
We need to absolutely start looking at how we can phase out of dirty fossil fuels. We need to look at changing our energy consumptions, and we need to work with Indigenous communities that have been critical to preserving the world's biodiversity, as well as the largest giga carbon sinks in the world. Indigenous peoples' territory globally represents 80% of the world's biodiversity. That encompasses gigatons of carbon sinks that are critical for climate stabilization. We need to make the link between Indigenous culture and climate stabilization, and we need to do that now.
And you know that, but how are you able to educate people to get that word out on a larger scale?
I think it's conferences like this and forums like this that are really, really going to be critical and essential. Indigenous Climate Action, as well as other Indigenous organizations, are currently at the climate negotiations in Bonn, Germany right now, where we're looking to sort of toe that line and push it further so that we actually get a seat at the table. Because historically, this is the COP23, Indigenous peoples do not have a seat at the negotiations tables. That's the kind of stuff that needs to change.
Well, I'm glad they have you as their voice. Thank you, Eriel Tchekwie Deranger.
Thank you so much.